Title: She betrayed him in front of everyone. He walked away with a plan that left her with nothing. The party was in full swing, the kind of glittering chaos Vesper loved. Crystal chandeliers cast light over the crowd, laughter and clinking glasses filling the air. I stood by the bar, clutching a whiskey I hadn't touched, my eyes fixed on her. Vesper, my wife of 7 years, was across the room, her laughter sharp and deliberate, her hand resting too long on the arm of some slick-haired executive. I saw it all, the way she leaned in, her lips brushing his ear, the secret smile she thought I'd miss. She knew I was watching. She wanted me to see. My chest burned, not with shock, but with a sick, familiar ache. Vesper had always been a storm, beautiful and cruel, her words cutting me down to nothing. "You're too soft, Alden," she'd say, her eyes cold, like my love was a burden she tolerated. I'd spent years trying to please her, cooking dinners she barely ate, planning trips she mocked, swallowing her insults because I thought that's what love meant. But this public betrayal, this performance, was new, and it broke something in me. I didn't confront her, didn't storm across the room and make a scene. I just stood there, my hands shaking, the whiskey glass cold against my palm. She glanced my way, her smirk daring me to react, to prove I was the weak man she'd always claimed. I turned and walked out, the cool night air hitting my face like a slap. She thought she'd won, that I'd slink home to cry and beg. She had no idea I was already planning my exit. The drive home was a blur. Our house, once a place I'd poured my heart into, felt like a cage now. Her perfume lingered in the air, her shoes scattered by the door. I sank onto the couch, my mind racing. I'd known for months something was wrong. Late nights, vague excuses, the way she'd flinch when I touched her. But seeing it, watching her flaunt her betrayal, was different. It wasn't just infidelity. It was a declaration that I meant nothing. I could have called her, screamed into the phone, demanded answers. But I didn't. Instead, I pulled out my laptop and started digging. Bank accounts, emails, anything I could access. Vesper was careless, always had been, leaving passwords on sticky notes, assuming I'd never dare look. What I found wasn't a surprise, but it still gutted me. Messages to him, plans for trips, even a lease for an apartment I didn't know about. She was building a life without me, and I was just collateral damage. The old me would have cried, would have waited for her to come home and begged her to stay. I'd always been the winner, the one who apologized first, who thought love meant enduring her cruelty. But that night, something shifted. I wasn't going to be her victim anymore. I started making calls, quiet ones, to a lawyer friend, to a realtor I trusted. I wasn't sure what my plan was, not yet, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let Vesper walk away thinking she'd broken me. When she came home hours later, I was still on the couch, the laptop closed. She didn't even look at me, just kicked off her heels and poured herself a glass of wine. "You left early, Alden," she said, her voice dripping with mock concern. "Feeling okay?" I didn't answer, just watched her move through the kitchen, so sure of her power. She thought I was done, that I'd crumble under the weight of her betrayal. She had no idea I was already steps ahead. I went to bed that night, not to our shared room, but to the guest room, locking the door behind me. My heart pounded, not with pain, but with purpose. Vesper could have her games, her executive, her victory lap, but I was done playing her fool. Whatever came next, it would be on my terms, and when I walked away, she'd be the one left with nothing. For the first time in years, I slept soundly, dreaming of freedom. The morning after the party, I woke to the sound of Vesper's voice, sharp and impatient, barking into her phone from the kitchen. She was already up, probably plotting her next move, oblivious to the fact that I'd spent half the night laying the groundwork for mine. I stayed in the guest room, the door still locked, my laptop open on the bed. The lawyer had emailed back, a guy named Torin, discreet and sharp, who didn't ask too many questions. He'd agreed to meet me tomorrow. The realtor, a woman called Maris, had sent listings for small apartments, places Vesper would never think to look. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I didn't leave the room until I heard the front door slam, Vesper's car peeling out of the driveway. Only then did I venture out, the house eerily quiet. Her wine glass from last night sat on the counter, a faint lipstick stain on the rim. I stared at it, my stomach twisting. How many times had I cleaned up her messes, literal and otherwise, convincing myself it was love? No more. I left the glass where it was and made coffee, strong enough to jolt me into focus. My plan was taking shape, though it was still rough. I wasn't just going to leave. I'd done that last night, and it wasn't enough. I wanted Vesper to feel the weight of what she'd done, to lose the control she cherished. I started by securing my finances. We had joint accounts, but I'd always handled the bills, the budgets, the details she found beneath her. She'd never notice if I moved things around, not until it was too late. I transferred half our savings to a new account, one she didn't know about. It felt like theft, but it wasn't. It was survival. Work was my next step. I called in sick, something I rarely did, and spent the day digging deeper into Vesper's secrets. Her email was a goldmine. Careless, arrogant, like she thought I'd never have the guts to check. There were more messages to him. This executive named Gideon, all charm and promises. She'd even sent him photos, ones that made my throat burn with humiliation. But I didn't stop. I screenshot everything, saved it to a drive, and sent copies to Torin. Evidence, he'd said, was key in a divorce. I wasn't sure I wanted one yet, but I wanted options. By afternoon, I was exhausted but wired, my anger a steady hum beneath the hurt. I went for a walk, needing air, needing to think. The neighborhood was quiet, kids playing in a yard, leaves skittering across the sidewalk. I'd always loved this place, imagined growing old here with Vesper. Now, it was just a stage for her cruelty. I stopped at a park bench, pulling out my phone. There was a text from her. "Where are you? We need to talk." No apology, no softness, just her usual demand. I didn't reply. Let her stew. That night, I cooked dinner for myself. Steak. Rare, the way I liked it, not the well-done slabs Vesper insisted on. I ate alone, the silence comforting instead of oppressive. She came home late, her heels clicking as she stormed through the house. "Alden," she called, her voice edged with irritation. I didn't answer, just kept eating. She found me in the dining room, her eyes narrowing. "What's wrong with you?" she snapped. "You're acting like a child." I looked at her, really looked, and saw the woman who'd humiliated me, who'd laughed at my pain. "I'm fine, Vesper," I said, my voice steady. "Just eating." Her mouth tightened, like she wanted to argue, but I didn't give her the chance. I stood, cleared my plate, and walked past her to the guest room, locking the door again. She didn't follow. As I lay in bed, the weight of my actions settled over me. I wasn't the man she'd mocked anymore, the winner who'd beg for her approval. I was Alden, and I was building something new, a life where she had no power. She thought she'd won at that party, but she was wrong. I was already halfway out the door, and when I left, she'd have nothing but her regrets. For now, I'd play along, let her think she was in control. But my exit was coming, and it would be perfect. The next morning, I slipped out before Vesper woke, her snores echoing from the bedroom she now occupied alone. I'd stopped thinking of it as ours. The guest room was my sanctuary, sparse but mine, a place where her shadow didn't reach. I met Torin, the lawyer, at a diner across town, a gritty spot with sticky tables and coffee that tasted like tar. He was older, grizzled, with eyes that saw through bullshit. I handed him the drive with Vesper's emails, the screenshots, the proof of her affair. "This is good, Alden," he said, flipping through the files. "She won't have much to stand on if you push for divorce." I nodded, my throat tight. Divorce wasn't the goal, not yet. I wanted her to lose first, to feel the ground shift beneath her. Back home, I kept up the act. Vesper was in the kitchen when I returned, scrolling her phone, a half-eaten bagel on the counter. She barely glanced at me. "You were out early," she said, her tone accusing, like I'd betrayed her by having a life. I shrugged, pouring coffee, my silence a weapon she didn't expect. "What's your problem, Alden?" she snapped, slamming her phone down. "You've been sulking since the party." I wanted to laugh. Sulking? She thought I was pouting, not plotting. "Just tired," I said, meeting her eyes. She frowned, thrown by my calm, then stormed off, muttering about my moodiness. Good. Let her think she still knew me. I spent the day tightening my plan. Maris, the realtor, sent more listings, small studios, affordable, far from Vesper's orbit. I picked one, a loft with exposed brick and a view of the river. It wasn't much, but it was freedom. I signed the lease online, my heart pounding. I also called my bank, finalizing the new account, moving more funds, carefully, so Vesper wouldn't notice. She'd always been careless with money, spending on designer bags while I balanced the books. Now, that carelessness was my advantage. Work was my next move. I'd been coasting, letting Vesper's chaos drain me, but no more. I pitched a project to my boss, a bold one I'd shelved because Vesper called it a waste of time. He loved it, gave me the lead. For the first time in years, I felt capable, like Alden wasn't just Vesper's pathetic husband. My coworker, Leora, noticed. "You're on fire, man," she said, grinning over coffee. I smiled back, a real smile, not the forced one I'd worn for Vesper. Leora didn't know my story, but her kindness reminded me there was a world beyond my wife's cruelty. That night, Vesper tried again. She cornered me in the living room, her arms crossed, her voice softer but still edged. "Alden, we need to talk about us." Us. The word was a joke, but I played along, curious. "What about us?" I asked, leaning against the wall. She faltered, like she'd expected me to beg. "I know things have been tense," she said, avoiding my gaze. "But we can fix it." Fix it. After her betrayal, her parade at the party? I almost laughed. "Instead," I said, "maybe," and walked away, leaving her stunned. She thought she could reel me back, but I was already gone. I started packing quietly. A few clothes, books, my laptop, things Vesper wouldn't miss. I stored them in my car, ready for the loft. I also changed my passwords, locked my phone, cut off her access to my digital life. She'd never cared about the details, but I wasn't taking chances. Each step felt like shedding skin, leaving the whining, broken Alden behind. I wasn't strong yet, not fully, but I was getting there, fueled by the image of Vesper's face when she realized she'd lost. By bedtime, I was in the guest room, the door locked, my mind racing. Vesper was still in the house, probably texting Gideon, thinking she had time to play her games. She had no idea how close I was to vanishing. The party was her victory, but it was my turning point. When I left, she'd have nothing. No husband, no control, no audience for her cruelty. I closed my eyes, not dreaming of her, but of the life I'd build without her. One step at a time, my exit was coming, and it would be flawless. The air in the house felt thicker now, like Vesper's presence was a storm cloud I could no longer ignore. She was trying harder, her attempts at reconciliation growing bolder, but they were hollow, a performance to keep me in her orbit. Last night, she'd knocked on the guest room door, her voice soft, almost pleading. "Alden, come to bed. Let's talk." I didn't answer, didn't unlock the door. Her footsteps retreated, and I heard her mutter something sharp under her breath. She wasn't sorry. She was scared, sensing the control slipping from her grasp. Good. Let her feel it. I was moving faster now, my plan solidifying with every step. The loft was ready. Maris had sent the keys, and I'd spent an hour there yesterday, standing in the empty space, imagining a life untainted by Vesper's cruelty. I'd bought a few things, a bed, a lamp, a cheap rug, nothing fancy but mine. I moved more of my stuff from the house, careful to take only what wouldn't raise suspicion. Vesper was too wrapped up in her own world to notice a missing sweater or a few books. Her carelessness was my shield. At work, I was thriving. The project I'd pitched was gaining traction, and my boss called me into his office to praise my focus. "You're stepping up, Alden," he said, clapping my shoulder. I nodded, a quiet pride warming my chest. Leora invited me to a team happy hour, and I went, laughing at her stories, feeling like a person again, not just Vesper's shadow. I didn't talk about my marriage, didn't need to. The weight of it was lifting, piece by piece. Torin, the lawyer, was my next stop. We met again, this time at his office, a cluttered space with stacks of papers and a coffee maker that hissed like it was alive. He'd reviewed the evidence, Vesper's emails, the lease, the financial trails. "You've got a strong case," he said, leaning back in his chair. "If you want to file, she'll have little to fight with. But you need to decide what you want." I didn't want a messy divorce, not yet. I wanted her to wake up one day and find me gone, her life unraveling without a single shot fired. Torin raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. "Just say the word," he said. I nodded, knowing the word was coming soon. Vesper's behavior was shifting. She was home more, her phone less glued to her hand. She cooked dinner one night, a clumsy attempt at pasta, and set the table with a forced smile. "Let's eat together, Alden," she said, her voice too sweet, like she was playing a role. I sat, ate, said little. Her eyes searched mine, looking for the old me, the winner who'd cave under her charm. I know I've been distant, she said, twirling her fork. But I want us to work. I almost choked on the lie. Work? After she'd paraded her affair at the party, after years of cutting me down? I mumbled something vague and left the table, her frustration palpable behind me. I was almost ready. The loft was set, my finances secure, my job stronger than ever. I'd even started running again, early mornings along the river, the rhythm of my steps clearing my head. Each run was a reminder. I was Alden, not Vesper's fool. I'd stopped wearing my wedding ring, slipping it into a drawer with her old letters, relics of a love that never really existed. The guest room was bare now, just a bed and my laptop, a temporary stop before my real life began. That night, Vesper tried one last time. She cornered me in the hallway, her eyes wet, her voice breaking. Alden, please. I messed up. I need you. It was the closest she'd come to an apology, but it was too late. I saw her for what she was, desperate, not remorseful. I'm going to bed, I said, stepping past her. She grabbed my arm, but I pulled free, locking the guest room door. Her sobs echoed through the house, but they didn't touch me. She thought she'd won at that party, but I was rewriting the ending. Tomorrow, I'd make my final move, and when I walked away, she'd have nothing but the echo of her own choices. I slept with a calm I hadn't felt in years, the taste of freedom closer than ever. The morning of my exit dawned bright, the kind of day that felt like a promise. I woke early, the guest room bare except for a duffel bag packed with my essentials. Vesper was still asleep, oblivious to the fact that this was the last time I'd stand in her house. I didn't leave a note, didn't make a sound. I slipped out, my car loaded with the last of my things, and drove to the loft. The river sparkled outside my new windows, the brick walls glowing in the sunlight. I stood in the empty space, my chest light, and whispered to myself, "This is mine." For the first time in years, I felt whole. I didn't vanish completely, not yet. Torin had advised me to tie up loose ends, so I sent Vesper a single text. "I'm gone. Talk to my lawyer." I included Torin's contact, then blocked her number. She'd wake to an empty house. No husband to manipulate, no audience for her tears. I pictured her panic, her calls going to voicemail, her world crumbling as she realized she'd lost the game she thought she'd mastered. I didn't need to see it to know I'd won. Work became my anchor. The project I'd pitched was a success, earning me a promotion and a raise. Leora and the team threw a small celebration, and I laughed, really laughed, surrounded by people who saw me as Alden, not Vesper's shadow. I started running daily, my body stronger, my mind clearer. The loft filled up, a couch, a bookshelf, a painting I'd bought on impulse. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest, a space where I could breathe. Then came Nessa. I met her at a coffee shop, spilling my drink when she bumped into me, her laugh bright and unforced. "My fault," she said, handing me napkins, her eyes crinkling. She was warm, grounded, nothing like Vesper's icy charm. We talked, swapped stories, and when she asked for my number, I gave it without hesitation. Our first date was simple, dinner at a taco truck, then a walk under the stars. She listened when I spoke, shared her own dreams, never once making me feel small. "You've got a quiet strength, Alden," she said one night, her hand in mine. I believed her. Months later, I heard about Vesper through Leora, who'd seen her at a bar, alone and brittle. She'd lost her job, her affair with Gideon had imploded, and the apartment she'd leased was up for sale. She looked lost, Leora said, not unkindly. I nodded, feeling no guilt, no urge to fix her. Vesper had made her choices, and I'd made mine. I wished her no harm, but I didn't look back. By summer, my life was full. Nessa and I were steady, not rushing, but building something real. We'd cook together, her teasing me about my terrible knife skills, or spend weekends hiking, her hand brushing mine on the trail. I started writing, a hobby Vesper had mocked, and shared my stories with Nessa, who read them with a smile. "You're good at this," she said, and I felt a pride I'd forgotten was possible. My loft was a home now, filled with laughter, music, and the smell of coffee. Friends came over, Leora, Soren from work, even Torin once, toasting my new start. One evening, Nessa and I sat on my balcony, the river reflecting the sunset. She leaned against me, her warmth grounding me, and I realized I was happy, not the frantic, desperate kind I'd chased with Vesper, but a quiet, steady joy. The party, Vesper's betrayal, the years of her cruelty, they were scars, not wounds. I'd planned the perfect exit, not for revenge, but for me. I'd walked away, built a life that was mine, and found people who saw me for who I was. As the stars came out, Nessa squeezed my hand. "You're smiling," she said. I was. I'd left Vesper with nothing, not out of spite, but because I'd chosen myself. And in that choice, I'd found everything: freedom, love, a future I'd never imagined. I didn't need to look back. My story was here, now, and it was enough. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to help this video reach more viewers. See you in the next one.